mistake. There was a study done at Babson College, which is one of the top entrepreneurial colleges in the US, in Boston. And that's their study that 75% of the companies in the S&P 500 will no longer exist in the year 2025. 75% of the companies. But relevant for this occasion right now, 50% of the companies that will replace those 75% of the companies have not been born today. This is 2 years ago. Have not been born today. It's you guys. You are the ones who will be there. You don't need to be around for 40, 50 years. Actually, if you're around for 40, 50 years, it's unlikely that you will continue. More likely you will die. So this is one key data point for today. The second data point is about disruption and change, which you all know about. Now, the first set of industries have already changed, most of these, but guess who's resisting the hardest at the moment? Big pharma, energy, and food and water. And guess where food and water is? The last. It is the industry that is pushing back the most for change. And that is part of the problem, because they have big lobbies, big money, multi-trillion-dollar industry controlled by 10 organizations. And that's part of the problem, and that's where they are pushing back disruption. So, in exactly the same way, what I was saying is that how many people here work in companies that were born more than 20 years ago? Anybody? A few. Actually, not that many. I'm surprised. Normally in the room, there's about half of the people are, they say that they were companies in banks that were set up last year, and pharmaceutical firms, hotels, they were set up in the last century. All of them.
It's happening already.
It's happening already, but 75% of these companies are going to go down. These new companies are going to go up. And where we are today, ladies and gentlemen, is in the transformation decade. This is where all the change is happening, and you are at that point. And the question you ask yourself is, are you ready? Can you make this stuff happen? Will it work for you in your companies? So if you're a bank or a large organization that was created in 1990, watch out. You are the most vulnerable company, because you will not be able to change as fast as everybody else. Why is all this happening? Because social, political, and business change is slower than technological change. We are at the 1/3 of that technological curve. We are about there. So shifts happening very, very fast. Now, how many people know the difference between linear and exponential? Anybody? Yes, sir. Give me a quick explanation of linear versus exponential. Non-scientific. Okay. So he's going to be my guinea pig. I'm going to test him, okay? So if I walk one step of mine is 1 meter long, okay? And I walk 15 meters, how far have I walked? How far have I walked if I take 15 steps? 15 meters? I'll come back. Now I've taken 30 steps. How far have I walked? 30 meters. Okay. Now I'm going to exponentially walk on doubling. 1, 2, 4, 8. If I walk 15 doublings, how far have I walked? Mr. Mathematician, take out your cell phone or how far have I walked? Absolutely, you don't know. And then I will walk again back to 30 doublings. How far have I walked? 1,700,000 meters, which is 26 times round the world. So the difference between linear, up and down, exponential, 26 times round the world. The way technology and data and processing speed is 26 times around the world. So our brains think linear, but the world is exponential. And that is why the shifts are happening and we don't even realize. So we need to just sort of wake up and be ready. And this is part of what I'm doing. So all the amazing companies who are on this red line, the companies that grow 5%, 10% a year, they're on that red line. So if you're a bank, if you're large, there's so many food companies out there, they are on the red line. They are happy because they think they're growing 10% and they're $1 billion company. Watch out. Okay, these I'll ask you a question. How long has 3D printing been around? Any ideas? Sorry? 10 years? Sorry? 8 to 10 years? Anybody else? 35 years. How long do you think AI has been around? 65 years, 1954. That was the first AI conversation held in a university. Genome sequencing, how long has that been around? And. So what has been happening is a lot of these, everybody's watched Star Trek, right? So all of the innovations in the 60s started coming through now. That's how far they were at that time. So what happens is that this is the deceptive stealth curve. That 3D printing keeps growing slowly, incrementally, very expensive in a research lab. Doesn't hit your business, and you don't think about it. But by the time it hits, it's finished. Game is over. The company is dead. Because you have to identify it before that. At least 2-3 cycles before that. Even though you are growing at 10%, even though you're a $10 billion company, you need to have the courage to sort of say, I know the tsunami is coming, I need to get my act together. And that is the kind of thing we have to do. Let me give you a few examples. Actually, this is the way the world is now moving, and this, please take a picture of this one. The world is as complicated as this as we go forward. So we need to be able to engage ourselves in this world, and it's designed to confuse, so we need to find a way to simplify, clarify, synthesize, analyze, and make it simple for us. Okay? Now, these companies were, in the stealth mode, and they didn't understand what was going on, right? They all died. These companies, not that innovative in my opinion, but they created new business models and so on, and they have become trillion-dollar companies, some of them. Okay, very successful, but for how long? You guys can change that. What I'm going to do is just share one example, because as startups, this is really, really critical. I'm getting a little bit behind the clock, but I think it's really important on this one. Let me just take one example, Kodak. Everybody knows Kodak? Okay, what business do you think Kodak was in, madam? What did they do? Photography, sir. Cameras. Anybody else?
Image.
Chemicals, sorry? Chemist company? Yes, sir.
Photography, film.
Photography, films.
Image business.
Image business. Wrong, 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 wrong. Totally wrong. They were in the business of memories and moments. They forgot that. The rest is the baseline. They were in the business of memories. You capture your memories, you take a picture, you create an album, you go and show it to your mom and dad and your kids. That's the business they were in. They were the ones who invented the digital camera and got killed by the digital camera because they didn't adapt, because they were dinosaurs. And this is critical, guys. So the startups can take advantage of this, and the oldies have to be careful of this. So what happens is that when an industry changes, what changed there? Digital photography came in, analog photography collapsed, digital photography came up. So, how many people know economics? Supply and demand. Everybody? Okay, so what we do as business people, as startups and so on, is what we try to do is to reduce the cost of supply as low as possible, right? And then reduce the cost of creation of demand as low as possible. Simple stuff? Okay, let me give you a few examples. Example one, Kodak. Who replaced Kodak? In 2012, Kodak died, went into bankruptcy, Chapter 11. By the way, they're trying to recover themselves as a Bitcoin company, but that's another conversation. But who replaced Kodak? Sorry? In 2012, who replaced Kodak? Fuji? No. Instagram. Again, you were wrong. You were thinking cameras, you were thinking film. You see, what does Instagram do? Images sharing. That's the difference. And that's the key. And that's the essence of what we do as young startups. So, let's take Airbnb. If Airbnb wants an extra 100 rooms, what do? They'll call out 100 rooms around this area, and like that. Cost to Airbnb? 0. Cost of creation of new supply, 0. I have a friend of mine in this room, ex-Ritz-Carlton, Marriott. If Marriott wants to create another 100, 200 rooms in this region, how much will it cost and how long will it take? A couple of $100 million. So cost of supply is 0, cost of demand 0. New business models, cost of supply and demand 0. If you're not working with those kinds of dynamics in your new startups, folks, you are going to get left behind. And that to me is one of the key messages for for today. So does that make sense? So you need to be fine-tuning your examples. I love this, and then I'll fast-track this. Where is this? This is Dubai. This is exactly where we are sitting right now. I came here after graduating in the UK in 1988-89. I used to live in one of the Trade Center apartments here, apartment 701, Block B, when I first came down here. We have seen this in our lifetimes. And this is happening not only in Dubai, but in at least 10, 20 countries in the world. This is the rate of change that we are in, including your industry. So as we look forward, this is Dubai in 2030. I was at the Prime Minister's office, I was presenting there once, and one very senior person, a minister level person, he said, Tariq, because I have 2040 written there. And he said, no, we're going to get there faster. So I was beaten up. So we were in 2030. Now what's missing there, if anything? Nature, humanity. So what I was saying is we need to put humanity inside, we need to put love inside everything, which we are doing a lot of now. But that's an artist's impression that came out. So what I was trying to demonstrate here is that cities can change very, very rapidly, and what is our perspective. Now, it's not just Dubai today. It used to happen 100 years ago, this kind of change and transformation. Okay? You know what this is? Yes, in New York City, Fifth Avenue, Easter Day Parade. What do you see there? Horse-driven carts, right? Do you see a car? 2 cars. Now, fast forward, really fast forward, 1917. Do you see a horse-driven cart there? What changed? Ford Motor Company in 1908 came with Model T4. Everything changed. And this is what's happening with automated cars, with 3D printed food, with all the kind of funny, funky things that we're going to be looking at, is that it starts changing. The other one is climate change. I'm going to rush through this because I think we're short of time. Climate change is one of the biggest issues that we are facing today. And because of climate change, the level of water is going to rise up by about 18 inches to 2 feet by 2050, 2055. What that's going to do is going to displace up to 500 million people. It will make Syria and the problems there look like a picnic if you're not careful. And I think that's one of the key things. So, everybody knows Star Trek, Dr. McCoy. The tricorders are there, we can do diagnosis just by doing that, and this was one last year. This one, how many people know CRISPR-Cas9? Anybody? It's a little growth gene that you can do, and it can actually define at an embryonic stage and can build muscles, can do whatever. So here was this cute little dog, this dog had a twin brother, born at the same time, genetically exactly the same, and it was given the CRISPR-Cas9 gene to build muscles. Now, cameras out, see what happened. Boom. So you can produce master races. Remember my first slide? Ethics and values. This is where ethics and values come in. We can create any kind of food, we can create any kind of humanity, but if you don't have our moral values in place, there is no future for us. This is the kind of stuff. And actually there are countries and people which will remain nameless for political correctness who have been testing this on embryos, can make super races as we go forward. So this chart is very good for this room. This company, Longevity Inc. in the US, wants to end death. No more dying. Because they can replace the 3D printed liver, they can put stem cells in your heart, you can effectively switch on your life and switch off your life. You don't need to die anymore. How is that going to change society? What's going to happen in population, etc., social, cultural issues. This is again some things you have to think about. Our jobs are going to change. our jobs are going to get replaced.
Sophia, I hope you're
We're going
listening
to
to
get
me.
robots as citizens.
You have been
Everybody
now
knows
awarded.
Sophia. We'll start falling in love with robots and things that are not humanity. We'll start putting chips in our brain. How many people who have kids here, if somebody said, here's a little chip, your kid's going to be the smartest kid in the world, would you put it in? It is a very serious moral issue. You would be surprised how many people would. Unbelievable number. I go all over the world talking about this. I have a 50-50. And the others are just shy. They come afterwards and say, well, if Mike could be the smartest person in the world and be a Nobel Prize winner and do this and be a physicist, I would love to put that. Okay, he or she is thinking very nicely and softly. The bottom line is, boom, they're putting something in your head. And this is going to change society. This is going to change our society. Building a building in 2-3 weeks with robots only, no workers in this country anymore. You don't need them. No taxi drivers in this country anymore. No maids in this country anymore. Gone, toast, finished in 15-20 years. The whole society will change. And this is the other thing. This is our bank tellers. They're going to be looking like that, and our service people. This is whoever uses Tinder who is prepared to accept that they use Tinder. Right is yes, left is out. And that's exactly how they're going to use insurance. If my car is in the car park downstairs, by the way, I couldn't park because I couldn't get in there, so I was late. It's there, so I insure my car for while I'm driving, and uninsure while I'm not driving. Blockchain and stuff allow me to do that. I can basically rent, hire whatever I want for only the time that I'm using it, and only the time I want to insure it. So insurance industry is going to disappear. So, getting towards the end, how does this make you feel, all of this? Taking me 5-10 minutes longer than I hoped, but I hope you got the messaging, the feel of it. Do you feel, how many people feel scared, fearful? Okay. And how many people feel hopeful? The rest. Brilliant. Okay. It's a funny video, and it's going to make you laugh, but it's very, very true. And this is an old lady, a grandmother, and she was put in a Tesla self-driving car. And see what happens to her when she gets into the car. Don't worry, she's totally safe.
I'm scared. Oh, there's cars coming. Oh, there's cars. Ah. Bill, this put me back for me controlling. Oh, dear Jesus. I could never. Oh, where's it going? God damn, Bill. Oh, my God. Oh, this is so scary. Oh, Jesus, this is my first day out now. I'm about to die.
Oh, come on, relax.
Oh my God, Bill. I couldn't do it. Oh, there's a car coming. Oh my God, you're going to hit us. It's,
And hit the brakes,
oh, my Jesus.
Now you're dry.
Okay. What happened there? All she was asked to do was not to hold the steering. The only thing that happened, she didn't have control. That's all. We are losing control in our lives, guys. This is how we are screaming. This is the scream of doing epistolat when WhatsApp talk and others come in. This is the scream of RTA when Uber walks in. This is the scream of technology, of humanity when technology comes in. This is the scream of change and transformation. We're all screaming inside because we're losing control. But that's what we need to find a way to master. And this is really the core message for today, is you a startup, what are you doing to be able to address these things? With your indulgence, because I know I'm over now, another 4 or 5 minutes and I'll just set up the, am I okay, Manny? I'm asking you, Chief Organizer. I'm just going to put 3 or 4 slides more, I'm running over, is this good? Okay? Yeah. With your permission. With your permission. All right. So basically what's happening is, that when we look at the food industry, this to me is like the food industry. You're riding big food industry like that. Okay, you're trying to hit it really hard, they don't really want to move. What are the incentives to change? What's the impact on your startups? And are you ready for that kind of stuff? That's my first question. These 10 companies control 80-90% of any kind of food and any kind of work that you do. And the biggest thing that you can have is create a startup to be bought by one of these, a successful startup to be bought by one of these. You just reinforce them, nothing else. Now, what's happening there? You know who made this infographic? Sorry? It was made by Oxfam because they spoke about food security. They spoke about control of food. They spoke about food distribution. 40% of the food that we produce is produced in the wrong place for the wrong space, and therefore it doesn't reach people. And in that process, what is happening also is the food that we are eating is making us fat, diabetic, and sick because it's sugar-driven and incorrect advice in terms of how we eat and what we eat and what portion we eat. This is the kind of stuff that's going on. Sugar is one of the key killers. If you look at 200 years ago to today, if you look at 50 years ago to today, the amount of sugar consumption is actually killing us. So whatever startups you have, folks, please be careful that you are aware of this kind of stuff. So when we look at the future of food, we look at almost 1 billion people who are starving, and another couple of billion people who are malnutrition. Climate change is going to affect us, and then we can go to these slides later if we want to. Population industrialization, and we have Dr. Banhart in the session right now. He's going to talk to us about meat and so on, how much meat we will be eating and how much more meat we will need in the next 50 years, 4 times more than we have today. This is what our food industry is going to potentially look like in the year 2030. It's worth taking a picture of that one. So technology is going to come in, society is going to come in, values are going to come in, ethics are going to come in, and all of these things coming together, this is how our future is going to be defined in terms of what we eat, how we consume, how we transfer. This is the sort of stuff that's going to go on. Genetic food. Self-created beef. Our children, and certainly our grandchildren, when they see a steak in front of you, say, ew, what is this? Grandma and granddad used to eat live food, like used to kill animals to eat. Socially and psychologically, they will be used to this, and because they're born on this. We can modify our food in there. This is what we should be doing to improve our hearts, and this is what we normally get. Lots and lots of ice cream and stuff like that. Okay, so this is the end of my session, just to warm you up. And I hope I've given you a little bit of an understanding of change and transformation, the importance of values and ethics, morality and humanity, and our inner feelings of how we look out for the future, how we need to be able to adjust our future, and within the food industry, as startups, as young people, as you project yourself into the future, what are the 2, 3, 4 things that you need to be looking at? And to me, my final message here is food for the future. Build your startups for the future, because that is where we're going to be spending the rest of our lives. Thank you very much indeed.